Imagine a treasure so coveted it could bring ruin to anyone who touched it. Beyond the glittering gold and the mythical ring lies a story of devastating consequences. Dive into the Norse legend of Andvari's curse, a powerful narrative illustrating how an unchecked hunger for wealth can bind you in ways you never imagined, transforming desire into an eternal burden. The mists of Midgard clung to the deep valley as the three travelers, weary from their unseen journey, followed the swift current of a river. This was no ordinary band, a tall, cloaked figure, his broad-brimmed hat shadowing a single piercing eye. Odin, Allfather of the Aesir, king of Asgard. Beside him, the silent, ponderous Hoenir, and completing the trio, the sharp-witted, mercurial Loki, the trickster of the heavens. The river's ascent led them into a solitary glen, where the water descended in a great, roaring white sheet. A formidable waterfall, Andvari's force. Upon a slick, gray rock beside the cascade sat a creature, an otter, its whiskers twitching with contentment as it savored a large salmon, freshly caught from the icy flow. It was an image of simple, wild peace. But peace was anathema to Loki. A mischievous glint sparked in his eye. He stooped, a stone cold in his hand, and with a swift, malicious precision, he hurled it. The stone found its mark with a sickening crunch. A moment later, both the otter and the salmon lay dead. "I've caught two with one strike. Trust me to take both an otter and a salmon with a single stone," Loki cried, a note of cruel triumph in his voice. He gathered up his double trophy, a prize he saw only as proof of his own cunning. Odin, though he held his peace, watched the casual act of violence with a distant look. Hoenir merely shuffled his feet. The three then continued their trek, the air subtly altered by Loki's deed, until the deep valley gave way to rich farmlands. Here stood a great house, strongly walled like the fortress of a powerful lord. Finding the gate unbarred, they entered the great hall. Seated alone by the fire was the master of the house, Hreidmar, a dark man whose eyes flashed with an inner arcane light. He looked at the stranger with a suspicious gaze. "Welcome, travelers. State your names and your business here, in the hall of Hreidmar, master of enchantment." Hreidmar's voice boomed. Odin, ever the courteous wanderer, doffed his hat. "We are humble wayfarers passing through this realm," he replied, leaning upon his staff. "Seeing the strength of your home and the richness of your lands, we sought shelter and company." "Though we are poor," Loki interjected, his voice too quick, too bright, "we possess our own kind of strength and cunning. Behold this otter and salmon. I struck them down instantly with a stone I threw." He held out the slain beast and its prey. The sight of his double catch did not impress Hreidmar. Instead, a shock of fury transformed his face. He rose to his feet, his hands crackling with raw power, and his shout was a command that brooked no resistance. "Fafnir and Reginn, my sons, come quickly. Come and seize these wicked men who have murdered your brother Otter." In an instant, a cold, magical paralysis seized the Aesir. From a back room strode two powerfully built youths, Fafnir and Reginn, who swiftly secured the gods with iron chains. Hreidmar sat back, his eyes gleaming with grim satisfaction. "And now," he said, gloating over his captives, "it remains only to decide how you shall die. Then what is your reason for decreeing our deaths?" Hœnir, always slow but possessed of a calm, deliberate logic, spoke. "You must understand," Hreidmar explained, a smug tone entering his voice, "that I am skilled in the black arts of the dwarfs and trolls, and my sons share my power, including the ability to change form. My eldest son, Otter, often took the form of that riverside beast to catch the fish he loved. The otter you killed is none other than my son, and justice demands a life be traded for the life taken." But justice also recognizes Vergild, Hoenir countered stolidly, invoking the ancient law of blood money. A payment can be made if the killing was accidental. My comrade cast his stone at what seemed only a common wild animal. Name the Vergild now that will pay for your son's death. Hreidmar, after consulting with Fafnir and Reginn, settled on a terrifying price. Strangers, we shall accept a ransom, and it must be this: enough pure red gold to completely fill the skin of the slain otter, and then enough more to totally cover it, so that not a single hair remains visible. One of the three, he decreed, must be released to fetch the payment, while the other two remained bound. With a deep sigh of resignation, Odin gave the necessary instruction. Seek out the black elves and the dwarves, Loki. Use all your trickery, for we are captive to sorcerers who must not learn our true identities. I cannot summon aid from Asgard. You can rely on me, Loki answered, a cunning, dangerous smile twisting his lips. I know precisely where the gold can be found, though it will indeed require every trick I possess to secure it for our release. While Fafnir and Reginn grimly began to skin the dead otter, a ghastly task of measuring the ransom, Loki returned directly to Andvari's force. The roar of the waterfall was a thunderous music that concealed a greater secret. Loki possessed the sight to see through the spray and the curtain of falling water. There, in a cave mouth behind the cascade, he spied Andvari the dwarf in the likeness of a great pike, and in the darkness behind him, a distinct, telltale shimmer of gold. The pike was too swift, too cunning for any hook or bare hand. Loki was forced to seek out the terrible queen of the sea, Ran, wife of the giant Aegir. Ran, the cruel wife of Aegir, the giant who ruled the sea, caught shipwrecked sailors in her net and drew them down to the bottom of the ocean. Ran was no friend to the Aesir, but, recognizing the evil giant blood in Loki, she willingly lent him her monstrous net, the same she used to drag shipwrecked sailors to the bottom of the ocean. Returning, Loki cast Ran's net. With a smart pull, the great pike was hopelessly entangled, gasping on the bank. Loki held him fast until the creature reverted to its true, dwarfish form. To save his life, Andvari was forced to surrender all his treasure. He hauled it forth, a magnificent, staggering pile of rich, glittering gold, a sight unlike any other in Midgard. But as the dwarf turned away, beaten and despairing, Loki saw him conceal one final tiny item, a little golden ring. "You will not keep any of it," Loki snarled, snatching the ring from Andvari's grasp. "Allow me to keep just this ring," the dwarf begged. "With it, I can produce more gold. The charm is useless to any but my own dwarf kin." Loki was unmoved, his vice-like grip secure on the ring. At last, broken and utterly stripped, Andvari's voice rang out, no longer plaintive but steeped in malediction. "Then," answered the dwarf, "accept my curse along with it. Be warned that this curse shall bring disaster and misery upon every person who wears this ring, until both the ring and the gold are returned to the depths of the water." So saying, Andvari transformed once more and plunged to the bottom of the river. Loki, unconcerned by the dreadful pronouncement, for curses only worked on others, not the gods, collected the vast hoard and returned to Hreidmar's hall. The grim payment began. The gold was poured into the otter skin until it was packed full, and then they began to pile the remaining gold around it. Slowly, painstakingly, the skin was hidden, hair by hair. As the work neared completion, Odin noticed the exquisite singular ring of Andvari in the pile. It seemed so beautiful that he plucked it out and slipped it onto his own finger. "Now, Hreidmar, our debt is settled," Odin declared, the gold heap complete. "You see, the otter's skin is entirely obscured by the gold." Hreidmar, sharp-eyed and avaricious, examined the mound. "Not quite," he exclaimed with a hungry look. "A single hair on the snout can still be seen. Cover that also, or the ransom is incomplete, and your lives are forfeited." With a sigh of deep regret, Odin removed the beautiful ring from his finger, the ring of Andvari, and covered the single visible hair. The Vergild was paid, the Aesir were set at liberty, and Odin grasped his spear once more. As they departed, Loki turned back to the wizard. "Andvari's ring carries Andvari's curse, misfortune and sorrow on all who possess it," he proclaimed, his voice sharp with a sinister warning. The three Aesir ascended back to Asgard, leaving the curse to take root in the house of Hreidmar, for the first rot of greed had already begun its insidious work. "We must have a portion of the Vergild," Fafnir and Reginn insisted to their father. "Otter was our brother as well as your son." "Neither of you shall have even one gold ring," Hreidmar answered, his heart already hardened by the gold's enchantment. He locked the enormous treasure in his strongest room, the lust for its possession consuming him. Fafnir and Reginn, spurred by avarice, plotted together, and the first true tragedy of the curse was accomplished. They murdered their father Hreidmar for the sake of Andvari's gold. The dark deed done, Reginn turned to his brother. "Let us now divide the treasure between us equally." Fafnir, already deeply in the spell of the curse, glared at him. "You won't get a single gold ring," he growled. "Leave here immediately, or I shall kill you too. The law of a life for a life is on you for murdering our father." Fafnir drove Reginn away, and the curse transformed him utterly. He placed Hreidmar's helmet of terror on his head, a fearsome artifact that terrified all who looked upon it. He carried the entirety of Andvari's hoard to Gnita Heath, a lonely, desolate wilderness. There he hid the gold in a cave, and in his final transformation, took on the form of a terrible, venom-spewing dragon to lie upon the hoard and gloat over it, as is the custom of all dragons. The curse was now personified. Reginn, consumed by vengeance, fled far, eventually finding his way to the court of Hialprek, king of the Danes, and became the royal smith. There, destiny placed a young boy into his care, Sigurd the Volsung, the son of the great hero Sigmund. Sigmund, Sigurd's father, had once been marked by a great destiny. Years ago, in the hall of King Volsung, a one-eyed stranger in a long cloak and broad hat, Odin, had appeared. The Allfather plunged a magnificent, shining sword deep into the trunk of the great oak tree that grew through the hall. "Whoso draweth this sword from this stalk," the stranger cried, "shall have it as a gift from me, and shall find that never a better sword was borne in hand by mortal man in Midgard." He then vanished into the night. Only Sigmund, Volsung's son, was able to draw the legendary weapon. With it, he performed many mighty deeds. Yet destiny could not be cheated. The day of Sigmund's fated death came in battle. Even as he fought invincible, Odin himself appeared, catching Sigmund's swinging sword on his staff. The blade shattered into pieces, and shortly after, Sigmund fell, mortally wounded. With his last breath, he commanded his wife, Hiordis, to take the shattered pieces. "For when our son is born," he gasped, "he will become the noblest and most famous of all the heroes of Midgard. From the pieces of this sword shall be made another weapon called Gram, and greater deeds shall Sigurd do with it than ever I performed." Hiordis later married King Hialprek, who became a kind stepfather to the young Sigurd. Reginn, the venomous smith, was made his tutor. He taught Sigurd well, but simultaneously tried to poison his mind, whispering of his noble birth and the riches his father deserved. "Surely you realize the extent of your father's wealth?" Reginn would bait him. "He was a king. Yet you are content to have no standing in your stepfather's house. I am not without standing, Sigurd would reply. I need only ask, and it will be given. To prove this, Reginn urged him to ask the king for a horse. Sigurd did so, and King Hialprek, true to his generous nature, replied, Choose any horse you desire, and anything else of mine, whatever it may be. The next day, as Sigurd went to the royal grazing wood, he met an old man, white-bearded, one-eyed, cloaked, and hatted. Why, sir, I come to the wood to choose a horse for myself. I beg you to advise me on the best choice of steed, Sigurd requested of the wise stranger. The old man led him, driving the entire herd down a steep bank into the swift waters. The flow of the river was such that every horse turned back in terror, except for one, a magnificent gray stallion, young and fair. This horse is descended from Sleipnir's line, the old man declared, before vanishing. Sigurd knew the old man to be Odin. He named the peerless steed Grani. Now that Sigurd was a man of great strength and courage, Reginn finally spoke of his true obsession. Fafnir the dragon, and the legendary gold hoard on Nita Heath. No man has dared to go up against him to slay him and take the treasure, Reginn tempted. If only I possessed a sword good enough, Sigurd cried, his young heart alight with the thirst for glory. I would challenge the dragon Fafnir myself and become his slayer. I will craft you a sword, Reginn, the master smith answered, and he went to his forge and fashioned a shining blade which he gave to Sigurd. Behold your meager craft, Reginn, Sigurd cried, and he struck the anvil with the sword so that the blade shattered into fragments. Go forge me a better one, he said, and flung down the handle. Reginn put all his knowledge and cunning into the forging of a fresh blade, and he brought the new sword to Sigurd, who gazed on it with admiration. Perhaps this one will satisfy you, Reginn said. You are a hard taskmaster for any smith. Sigurd smote the anvil with the new sword, and once again the blade broke into pieces and he flung down the hilt, crying, It seems you are merely a liar and a wretched smith, Sigurd accused, his mind now connecting the pieces. Or perhaps you intend to betray me to this dragon Fafnir, who, as I have heard tell, is your very brother. Then Sigurd went to his mother, Queen Hiordis, and said, Have I heard correctly that my father, King Sigmund, gave you the good sword Gram, the gift of Odin, in 2 pieces? That is true enough, she answered. Then give me the pieces, I pray, said Sigurd, for I am eager to have a sword worthy of my father's son. Reginn, cursing under his breath but realizing his time had come, took the fragments to his forge. He put all his dark skill into the remaking of Gram, and when he drew the finished sword from the heat, fire seemed to burn along its keen edges. Sigurd took the blade and tested it. He struck the iron anvil with all his strength, and the blade cut through the anvil and down into the wooden stalk beneath without so much as blunting the edge. As a final test, he held it against the river current, and a lock of wool floating downstream was sliced in half as it brushed the steel. This is indeed a mighty sword, Sigurd admitted. He girded Gram to his side, ready for his destiny, but first he completed a sacred duty. He avenged his father by sailing across the sea, defeating the hostile folk, and slaying King Lingi, the man who brought about his father's death, with a single stroke of Gram. With his duty done and his fame secured, Sigurd turned back to the dragon. He and Reginn rode away to Nita Heath, to the river where Fafnir came to drink. The dragon's track down from his cave was long, scored deep into the earth, vast beyond imagining. You told me that this dragon was no bigger than others of his kind, Sigurd noted, staring at the colossal spoor. But now that I see his tracks, I realize he is by far the largest of all dragons. Reginn, hiding his fear, offered a plan. You may still kill him if you simply dig yourself a pit in the path and stab him in the heart as he passes over you on his way to drink at the river. But what if the dragon's blood spills on me? Sigurd asked. It's useless for me to offer guidance, Reginn exclaimed, if you fear every risk. Truly, you are unworthy to be called Sigmund's son. Sigurd began to dig, but was interrupted again by the wise, one-eyed old man. You are following the counsel of one who wishes you harm, Odin warned. You must instead dig several pits and trenches and hide yourself in one where the blood cannot reach you after you have plunged your sword into the dragon's heart. Odin vanished, and Sigurd followed the true counsel, digging a network of escape trenches. He then hid himself in one of the pits. At last, the time came. The earth shook under the immense tread of the dragon. Fafnir snorted venom, a steaming mist as he moved down the path. Can Sigurd the Volsung, son of the great hero Sigmund, defeat the fearsome dragon and claim the cursed gold? Or will he be consumed by its fiery wrath? Watch out for part 2 of the Curse of Andvari's Ring. Thank you for watching.